I expected the attention around me to dissipate 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, it doesn't stop. And I can't figure it out, really. I think maybe it's because the media types, I mean, some of them have supported me, don't get me wrong, but they can't really figure me out because what I'm doing isn't really political. It's psychological, and I am a clinical psychologist. And Justin himself doesn't do a very good job of drawing a distinction between his views and the views of the radical left. And so all of that's mangled around in this satirical attack, but I don't think it's the most effective. Mm-hmm. It's got an element of real gossipy innuendo and mean-spiritedness about it that I think overwhelms whatever humorous satire it might also contain.
Though Peterson has been critical of many politicians, he has been particularly disparaging of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who has been an enthusiastic supporter of strict public measures since the beginning. It is almost impossible to overstate the degree to which Canada's international reputation has been damaged by Justin Trudeau. The Americans I have talked to, including people very well placed politically on the Democratic and Republican fronts alike, listen in disbelief when I recount the claim brought forth by the Trudeau Liberals.
You know, the story in Canada, our Prime Minister implemented the Emergencies Act, and so the question was why? And so I went on Twitter when this was trending and read at least 5,000 Twitter comments to try to get a sense. These were people who were supporting Trudeau in his application of the Emergencies Act. And I was trying to figure out, okay, well, what do they believe is happening? And the story seemed to be, and this is as far as I can tell, and maybe I'm wrong, the story was something like, make America great again. Conservative Republicans on the, pretty far right were attempting to destabilize Canadian democracy. And so my question was, well, what makes you think they care, first of all, about Canada and its democracy? And second, why in the world would they possibly do that? You need a motive for a crime like that. And you think we're immune to that in a place like Canada. It's just because we're, so sheltered, we're naive beyond belief. It isn't clear to me at all that a third of Canadians have virtually no allegiance whatsoever to the ideas of freedom of association, allegiance, conscience, and expression. The rapidity with which Canadians, particularly in Toronto, leapt forward to adopt all the restrictions of the mask mandates was absolute evidence of that. And
according to Jordan Peterson, the new law forces speech that is allegedly invented to have a political connotation and is anti-scientific, whereas the country's hate speech laws have previously restricted speech. The gradual reduction of our individual rights and freedoms in Canada has been very subtle and sinister. We all need to take a stand to oppose and eliminate this pervading sentiment of woke that has crept into administrative departments in every sector. And the public education system needs to be the first area to be cleansed before more young people become the ultimate victims of groupthink.
First of all, it's speculation, clearly. It's mean-spirited speculation on the part in relationship to the behavior of Trudeau's mother. Even if it was true, then, well, what's your point? He's born a communist? That's your point? That's a stupid point. Or what, he knows that Castro is his father, and so now he's tilting hard towards the left to please him? Well, that's not helpful and clueless. Now, the Trudeaus, in some sense, set themselves up for something like this because Trudeau the senior played footsie with Castro in a way that was rather unique in the Western world, and I think that was that was not a good decision. He was less stringent in drawing a line between the left and the radical communist left than he might have been, and so those chickens have come home to roost in some sense in terms of this assault on his son. Set up food camps to feed the homeless, and they're shoveling the snow in front of the war monument, and now they have a guard around the Terry Fox statue. Terry Fox was a man, one-legged Canadian who ran across the country raising money for cancer, and he's a Canadian hero, and his statue was desecrated in the language of the mainstream press. They put a upside-down Canadian flag on it and put some clothing on him, which was desecration, which okay, have it your way. In any case, the truckers set up a guard around the statue, so that's not going to happen again. And they seem to be not taking the bait. And so I hope that that continues, and that this proclivity to instigate, which would be extraordinarily convenient for Mr. Trudeau, and which is an easy out for him, I'm praying that that doesn't happen.
Now, professionals who disagree on social media with Canada's ruling elite find themselves ruthlessly threatened by institutions that are meant to stand for liberty of thought. I have been accused of harming people, although none of the complainants involved in the current action were clients of mine, past or present, or were even acquainted with any of my clients. I face public disgrace, mandatory political re-education, disciplinary hearing, and potential loss of my clinical licensing for agreeing with Pierre Poilievre and criticizing our standing Justin Trudeau. The simple truth is that Jordan Peterson is not afraid of the new left. He has spent his life studying the mannerisms of authoritarian states and knows acutely that he is living in one during the scaffolding stage.
It's actually almost beyond comprehension to me that I'm engaged in a battle in my country of Canada where I have to defend my right to practice my profession as a licensed psychologist. And I would say especially with my educational pedigree. I mean, Jesus, I was a professor at Harvard and the University of Toronto. I trained clinical psychologists, and the fact that I have to defend my right to conduct my own profession because I retweeted a tweet from the official leader of Canada's Conservative Opposition Party and criticized Justin Trudeau and have made, at least upon occasion, conservative political pronouncements. The fact that that has now made me subject to heavy-handed punishment and investigation by a government-sponsored regulatory board it's absolutely incomprehensible. And so that's also, I would say, difficult emotionally because I just can't believe it's happening. So I knew that. In any case, part of the reason I spoke up, and this was a hallmark of my clinical practice and also of the manner in which my family was organized, is like, we're going to have that fight right now. And we're going to make peace because I don't want to have this fight every day for the rest of my life. And so it's going to be a pain to fight through it because it's always a pain to fight through a conflict. But if you can fight through it, you can make peace and then you don't have the conflict. And I really don't like conflict. So I don't like it deferred because I know what happens if conflict is deferred. You get weaker because you backed off, and the conflict gets more intense because its tentacles grow in a sense. It's like not paying a utility bill. It's like for the first month, it's not that big a problem.
Here, Dr. Peterson has always shown courage in the face of challenges in his professional life and is to be applauded for taking a stand in this turn of events. Instead of rewarding and recognizing Peterson as the nation's pride, the Canadian government has not only been persecuting him since he became famous, but would obviously like to see him leave the country for good. If you find this content interesting, then give this video a big thumbs up and make sure to hit that subscribe button below. See you in the next video.